Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Laura and today I'm doing a little bit of a different video. This is more of a discussion video. It's a discussion of how I've been able to amass such a large collection, or tips on how you could amass such a large collection if you wanted to. But I don't recommend it. But I thought that at the very least I could give you a little bit of a history of how we've been able to collect so many manga, and how our collection. I've had a few questions about this in the past, and I thought maybe it was time to address it and maybe actually make a video about this whole topic. So here's sort of how we've gone about it, or some tips on how you could go about it as well. So tip number one is start early and be consistent. So when I started collecting manga, it was literally the day that I discovered manga is when I became a manga collector. I borrowed Nazca of the Valley of the Wind from the library. I've talked about this before, and literally the day after I finished reading that, I told my sister, we're going to the store, we're buying manga. So it was genuinely the day after I finished reading my first manga that I was a manga collector, and we went to the store. We literally bought everything that was available at the store. It was not a lot because in 2004, it was just at the very beginning of when manga was becoming popular, or, you know, present, available, and so we did end up picking up a number of volumes. Since that day, our collection has grown to over 5,000 volumes of manga, which literally means that in 14 years, we have picked up one volume of manga a day, which is a whole lot of manga. When I was doing the math of this, I didn't realize how much manga that actually was. Literally, it's a manga a day. So, you know, you don't have to be picking up quite at that pace, but do realize that, you know, in order to amass a huge collection, you have to be consistent. That you can't, well, maybe you could financially afford to do it and just put your money down and have this huge collection, but it takes time, and you need to be consistently adding to your collection over that time in order for it to finally kind of amount to any sort of quantitative number. It was a little bit easier back in 2004. Manga was a lot cheaper. Since the market crash a couple of years ago, the value of manga, value of books in general, the prices have gone up. And it'll take a while for the market to stabilize, and a while after that, then we'll start to see the prices drop again. But it's gonna take some time, and right now the prices are exorbitant. When I started collecting manga, the average price was $9.99 Canadian, and now we're seeing prices in the $17 a volume, which is just ridiculous. So it was a lot easier to buy more back when we started. So we probably were picking up more at the time, even maybe than we are now. So my next tip is to collect with a friend or a buddy. I have been collecting with my sister since the beginning, since 2004, since that first day. You know, I dragged her along to the store, we bought manga together, and we've been buying manga together since then. Every time I go to buy manga, she's there. I probably haven't bought manga more than a dozen times without her there, so it's very, very much a joint effort. And when I say it's my collection, it is my collection. All 5,000 volumes, it's my collection. If she says it's her collection, it's her collection. All 5,000 volumes are her collection, because it's generally a shared collection. We share the whole thing. But if we did decide to split and I move into a different house, or she went off somewhere, you know, our collection would divide, and, you know, half of it would come with me and half of it would go with her. We have kept it very clear, just to make things clear for when that time eventually happens, because we don't want things awkward between us either. You know, you don't want to fight with your siblings. So, you know, we've kept it quite clear, and it's been really good for us. You know, I know that she has slightly different tastes in manga than I do, so she's going to pick up certain titles, she's going to pick up certain genres and certain authors, and I don't have to worry about them. Even if I'm kind of interested in them, I'm not even going to look at, you know, Gundam, because I know that she's going to cover it. She's going to pick up the Gundam that I want to read. I know that she's going to pick up Fumi Yoshinaga. She's already collecting a different part of the collection than I am. So she knows that for me, I'm collecting kind of the Gekika works. I'm collecting the 80s shoujo. I'm collecting certain authors like Takehiko Inoue and Yu Atase, and those are the titles that she knows that she can say, hey, have you seen that this is out? I want to read it. And I'll buy it because that's my part of the collection. So it's been very much pretty that it'll be an easy split your collection off. Unfortunately, that means that I only get to have a half-size collection, and I'll be sad that I don't have 5,000 volumes of manga anymore, but it very much keeps us kind of friends. I think that it can get pretty ugly collecting with someone. I would say the best tip is to make sure that you're not collecting the same thing. Don't invest all together in the same series. So if you're really interested in collecting Naruto, for example, because it's 72 volumes, don't all collect part of Naruto. Don't all say, oh yeah, well, I'll collect 1 to 10. You can have 11 to 15 or 20 or whatever. Because what happens when that friendship's over, or what happens when you move on to college, or, you know, move into a new house, like, who gets that collection? I would recommend that if you are going to collect together, make sure you are collecting your own titles. Make sure that, you know, someone gets to collect Naruto, but maybe someone else gets to collect or in high school, and then just share the collection, or, you know, borrow or lend to each other. And that's a good way to do it. You know, if you say, oh, hey, I'm collecting or in high school, well, you can say, well, then I don't need to because I know I can borrow it from you. Like, that's a good way to do it, in my opinion. To collect a lot of manga, or to be able to have access to a lot of manga, is maybe more what this tip is about. But it's also going on too long, so let's move on to the next one. My next tip is don't discriminate. Don't discriminate against manga, or don't have discriminating tastes, I guess. When you are buying manga, you know, you can buy a lot of different things, and you can buy a lot of different genres and a lot of different topics and bring them all into your collection. I think a lot of people have the very good habit of going through their collection and then deciding, well, I don't really like this title, I'm going to get rid of it, or I'm not going to keep collecting this title, I'm, you know, only going to collect and have the things that I really like, which is the best way to collect, in my opinion. This is not, the way I do it is not the best way to collect, but it is the best way to collect if you want a huge collection. So, you know, when you are buying that thing, and even if you hate it, you have to keep it. Or at least I have to keep it. If I was getting rid of things, I certainly would have a smaller collection. And it would take a lot longer for me to amass so many manga. So if I was really concerned about the number, I would definitely say I can't get rid of anything. I don't get rid of anything, not at all to do with the number. I'm actually not concerned about this number at all. The reason I don't get rid of manga is because I know my tastes change. And I also want a representation of what is available in manga, what has been available in manga, what I have read in manga. You know, I have a handful of titles that I genuinely dislike, but I also will reread them. So I don't really want to get rid of titles even if I didn't like it. I think if I was financially strapped for cash, or if I genuinely was out of room, I would have to make some hard choices about what to get rid of, and manga certainly would be on the chopping block. But until that time happens, it's gonna just keep growing. If you want your collection to keep growing, you can't get rid of titles. You want to just keep adding, you don't want to be subtracting from your collection. I think that's just sort of basic. But there's a reason that they hurt the industry, and they certainly hurt your collecting. If you completely took scans off the table, the only way for you to get manga is to borrow it or to buy it. So your collection will have to grow. It has to grow if you want to read manga. So I say avoid scans completely. I always would say that, but if you want to amass a large collection, you have to buy the manga that you're going to read. And there was actually a time when I was reading scans. I didn't really realize how big of a problem it was, and I thought that it was sort of okay if I read no North American license. But That doesn't make it okay. It's still illegal. It is still illegal to distribute copies of something that someone else has created and also gain monetary rewards from, which the people who are scanlating and distributing are doing. The whole activity is taking away from the industry. So I've gone cold turkey off of scans, and my collection has started to grow again. I was reading scans a little bit when I was saving money for buying this house, so I was buying less manga at the time, but I also didn't have a desire to buy manga because I didn't need to, because I was reading it online. So I would say absolutely get rid of scans. Do not read scans. Don't read them because ethically you care about the industry, but also they will really help to push you to buy more manga. Scans shouldn't even be a consideration for you. So my next tip is just to get a job. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. If you have expendable income, you can buy manga. If you have more expendable income, you can buy more manga. So get a job. If your job doesn't allow you enough room for expendable income, get a second job or find some other ways manga collection, but it's certainly a tip on how to live life. Don't go into debt over manga. If you can't afford to pay for manga today, don't buy it. You shouldn't have it. Wait. You can always wait for it. It will always become available again in the future for probably a better price than you were going to pay today. When I started buying manga, I was already a working adult, so I know that there's a lot of, I think, younger people who have asked me this, teenagers maybe, who are living at home still, and maybe have an allowance or their parents buy them manga or only have, a small part-time job. I've always been a working adult since I've been collecting manga, and so I've always made manga a priority in my budget. When I was early on, I was less conscious of the decisions I was making, and I was just buying whatever manga I wanted. So I did get into debt because of it, and it was really stupid. But now I am very conscious about and even if it's a title that I want, I can't afford it, so I don't pay for it, and it has a ton of manga still. It's not like I'm hurting at all for collecting manga. It's been really beneficial to have a very strict budget. So that's my recommendation to you. It may not help you to grow your manga collection, but it'll certainly help you save money, I guess, and also collect at the same time. So my other tip was related to the last one, is stop spending your money on. You need to actively go through what your hobbies are and say, hey, I'm spending too much on this. I'm going to completely nix this one out of my budget. I'm not going to do this anymore. This is something that I have done myself personally. I actually used to be a huge collector of My Little Pony, and I genuinely mean huge. My collection of My Little, and buying anime and buying manga at the same time, and I had to think to myself, where do I want to put my money? I can't afford to have a large collection of any of these things, and to me, I wanted to have a lot of all of them. I wanted to have a complete collection of My Little Pony, and I wanted to have a huge collection of anime that I could watch at any time, and I wanted to have all the manga that was available to me. So I wanted to be able to do more financial collection already. I don't need to buy more anime. I only buy a little bit every year, but not at all like I used to. And my interest in ponies of them, but they just take up space, and I can't do anything with them. Apart from, lining them up on a shelf, they look cute. I can brush their hair, but that's about it. And for manga, at least, I was getting a lot of stories. I was getting a lot of satisfaction out of being able to reread things. I was learning a lot about the culture. For me, having manga was definitely more beneficial because it wasn't something that's just going to sit on the shelf and never do anything. It does a lot for me, and so I made a conscious decision to stop buying ponies entirely, and I sold most of my collection, which I never thought that I would do because I've been collecting them for quite a long time. So yeah, I've really narrowed down kind of what my interests are. Another thing that I've done is I completely got rid of television. My sister and I, made a decision that, this is costing us too much money. We don't really like what's on television. So there's no reason for us to have new TV. So we don't pay for cable. We don't pay for Netflix. We don't have any streaming services. I am out of the loop when you talk to me about popular culture, because there was no point, there's no reason for it, and I'm saving myself money, and I can afford more manga because of it. You really do have to maybe make hard choices. Maybe those are too hard for you. But there's probably something in your life that you could focus on something else. And if having a large collection is important to you, then you need to get rid of some other things in your life. Unless, of course, you're incredibly financially wealthy and you can just, put your money into all of the different areas, but I certainly am not. And then my last tip is to buy used. There's no sin in it. There's no harm in it. Buying used is a great way to grow your collection because you can pay for really good quality manga that's been read once, sometimes not read at all, pay less than half the price, which means that you can buy at least twice as much manga for the same value that you would buy a lot of manga at once, because a lot of people just want to get rid of it because it takes up so much space. So you can find manga for super cheap if you look for it. On top of this tip, I would say if you're buying manga used, don't pay more than cover price, because that's ridiculous. I know some of you have done that, and I regret doing that both times, because it's not worth that much. Even though it seems rare, manga is not rare. It's a manufactured item. It has huge multiple print runs. You should be able to find it somewhere for cheaper. Someone has it somewhere. Maybe it's going to take them 10 years before they dig it out of their attic or whatever, before they decide to sell it, but they will eventually decide to sell it, and they're going to sell it for less than cover price, and you'll be really happy that you waited. So I would say wait for a good price. But buying used is not a problem. It's not an issue at all, and it's a good way to grow your collection. It's a good way to be able to get more out of your dollar. And it's certainly been a way that I have discovered a ton of manga that I had never picked up when it was new, and discovered that I really enjoyed it. And so I have gone out and finished collections because I did buy them used. It's just a really good way to collect. It's a good way to add to your collection, to support your collection, because, now, if you start collecting manga now, your manga is really going to be dated from 2018. But there's a ton of manga that you missed out on if you don't support your collection, make it a robust collection, and pick up titles that are maybe out of print, are used, are harder to find. Going to, charity shops and garage sales and wherever else you might be able to go and find used manga, I would highly recommend it. It's been a huge way that my sister and I have added manga to our collection, and it's also just really fun what kind of titles you can discover, and you get to pick up titles that not everybody's reading, which is also super great. So those are my tips on how to collect a large collection. I would say if you want to collect something, just make sure that you're passionate about it. Don't just collect everything. There's lots of downsides to having a large collection as well, which I'm not going to get into here, but it is fun to collect. How much space you have in your house. It puts pressure on any of your other interests. There's lots of downsides to having a huge collection. So I would really recommend that, when you're collecting something, just make sure that you're really passionate about it. Keep it reasonable. Don't go into debt over it, and just sort of enjoy yourself, I guess. But the number is so insignificant. It's so genuinely insignificant. From someone who has a large collection, it does not matter how big your collection is, as long as you love the thing that you're collecting. It really genuinely is not. It's not a thing that you should even have in your focus. You're not buying manga to reach a specific number target. You're buying manga because you love that thing, you love that subject, you love that author, you love that art. Not because I need to have 5,000 manga. That just doesn't even make sense as a way to collect. At any rate, that I didn't want to get into that at all. Those were my tips, or sort of more of my history of how I have collected up to this point, how we have collected up to this point, and how we have acquired some. Don't do it. From someone who's on the other side of it. Don't do it. It's collect something besides manga and you think you have a substantial size collection. I'm really curious what it is that you collect. So tell me what you collect down below. Even if it's not a substantial collection, just tell me what you like to collect down below besides manga. I'm really curious about what other things people are liking to collect, particularly people who are manga collectors. If you're a manga collector, what other things do you like to collect? Like, what are your side hobbies? And I wonder how many of us actually have overlapping kind of interests. So that would be interesting to hear. At any rate, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.